good morning. And this is First Light. How you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing okay. My name is Athena. If you're here for the first time, welcome. Like I always say to you, do not forget to say hello. I will come back and say hi to you. Um, I'm gonna do it a little different for the sake of time. I will look at your comments after the live, okay? So come in, let me give you what I have prepared. And then after the live, I will come in and ensure that I greet all of you. Now, allow me to do some due diligence and just make sure that I'm streaming correctly on all my pages. So just bear with me 1 minute and I will, because I'm streaming on multiple pages, I want to make sure that I am connected to all the pages. Okay, so I can see me on one page, and let me run in and get to the other page and make sure that I am there also, and we will take it from there. I can't see myself. Okay, there I am. Okay, so okay. So there we are. Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is First Light, and today we are talking about something simple but costly if you ignore it. Today we're talking about the discipline of the tongue. And I chose the discipline of the tongue because I have struggled with controlling my tongue for years. I was always an outspoken individual from little girl. They used to say, "Oh, you have what you call hot mouth." They would tell me, "Tina, your mouth hot," right? But my mom, I don't know if it's because I'm an only child, my mom has always allowed me the privilege to express myself. And I've always expressed myself. That's been my personality. However, in the light of expression, I also learned to control. I also learned to control what I say over the years, because sometimes what you say can be very powerful and hurtful. And so, with that being said, let's dive into what I have prepared this morning. A lot of damage in relationships and in families, even in our own lives, our personal lives, does not come from what we did. It comes from what we said and how we said it. There's a version in the book of Proverbs that says, "He who guards his mouth preserves his life, not his image, not his reputation, his life." That means your words are not small. They shape outcomes, they shift atmospheres, they decide whether something grows or breaks. Now, let's bring it into real life. Some of us wake up already loaded with yesterday's frustration. And we can't help it. Everything that's going on in the world. We have a war, an active war in the Middle East. We have gas that's $404.30, at least in my area. And so we wake up with things loaded from yesterday, our frustrations of yesterday. So when we speak, we are not speaking from clarity. We are speaking from residue. We're speaking from residue because tone carries what words try to hide. We can say the right thing in the wrong spirit and still create damage. That is why discipline matters. Not silence, not suppression, but discipline. Knowing when to speak, knowing how to speak, and sometimes knowing when your first response should not be your final response. Because the first response is usually emotional, the disciplined response is intentional. Now, let's go deeper. Some of us are not being misunderstood. You are being heard clearly, but harshly. There's a big difference. If every conversation turns into correction, If every disagreement turns into intensity, people don't feel safe to engage with you because they're afraid of what the outcome will be. They start to withdraw, not because they don't care, but because every interaction feels like pressure. And pressure breaks connection. Pressure breaks connection. Now, this is not about blaming yourself, it's about taking authority over yourself. Power is not in controlling others, it is in controlling how you show up. Even in difficult conversations, even when you're right, because being right without restraint can still cost you something valuable. So here's the discipline I want you to practice today. Before you respond, pause. Ask yourself one question: is what I'm about to say building or breaking? Is what I'm about to say building or breaking? If it's breaking, refine it. If it's building, deliver it with clarity and calm. If you can't do either, wait for another time. And that I went this morning as I was preparing this, I remembered I was on a live last yesterday. I was on a live on TikTok yesterday, and we were talking about relationships. The discussion was about relationships, and if your partner is upset, should you try to have dialogue while you're in the heat of being upset, or should you wait? And one of the panelists was like, I have to tell my husband the same day before I go to sleep. And I responded and I said, I think when you get married, right? Especially in the Guyanese community, when you good morning, good morning, good morning, Pachula. How you doing, darling? In the Guyanese community, when you get married and the people the guests come to the wedding and they're standing in the audience and they're giving their speeches, they would say, do not go to bed with being angry with each other. Try to talk it over, right? And you would want to be like, yeah, that works. I have been with my husband for 16 years and that does not work. My husband is somebody you have to wait until everything is completely cold, like you can't, like it's absence from the mind, and then you come back and talk about it. So I feel like it's applicable to who it will work with, right? It doesn't work with me. Like I have to wait until 24 hours or 48 hours when he's completely calm to go back and be like, hey, what happened 2 days ago? And I hate doing that, but you have to work with the personality, right? And so you have to be like, hey, what happened 2 days ago? Let's talk about it. Why were you so angry? So yes, sometimes we have to wait for the right time to have the conversation, because time will do what emotion cannot. It will settle you. Let me leave you with this. You don't have to win every conversation to be heard. You don't have to win every conversation to be heard. You don't have to prove every point to be respected. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is speak in a way that keeps the door open, not closed. That's discipline. That's growth. And that's how you protect what matters without losing yourself in the process. This is First Light. Start your day with intention, not reaction. Start your day with intention, not reaction. And remember, our tongue is a very powerful tool. We have to know how to use it. And let me tell you something. Sometimes now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have really grown. Because listen, I used to be so sharp. The moment you tell me something, I have a clap back, like instantly. And over the years, I have learned that that will not do you any good, but destroy relationships. So now I just stay calm and I wait for the moment. And sometimes the moment never comes. Sometimes I never address it. It just slides away like, girl, don't let your emotion take you over. Let it be. And so this morning, I want to encourage us as we start today. Start your day with intention, not reaction. Don't react based on your emotions or your frustrations, but always think it through. And if it's not making sense, give it some time and then react to it. Something my husband hates about me is he would say something, and if I feel like it's going to trigger me, I don't say nothing. And then I come back like 2 days later and I'll be like, were you trying to tell me something this day? And it irritates him because he's like, why didn't you respond in that moment? And I'm like, I couldn't respond in that moment because we probably would have hit heads. So I had to wait for the right time when, I process everything that you were asking me or everything you were saying to me. Even at work, I do it because sometimes we have to be careful of how we respond from an emotional perspective versus uh, um, an intentional or a logical perspective. And so, with that being said, I hope today is inspirational to you, Petula. I hope you have a great day and you guys be blessed. Thank you for being here. I will go on all my platforms and make sure I respond to you if you came in and said something. If you just came in and looking at me from the outside and did not say anything, shame on you. Shame on you. Okay? You should come in and say hi. I don't bite, right? And if I were to pass you on the road, this is sometimes and before I go, I wanted to say this. Sometimes you see people on the internet and you don't interact with them. And then you see them in real life and you say, "Hey, I am your follower. I watch you all the time." And I look at you like, "Huh? Who are you? What is your name?" And then you say your name and I'm like, huh, I've never seen your name before. That is because you don't interact. So when you see me in real life and you want me to interact with you and have a different response, I'm like, I don't know who you are. So with that being said, do not be afraid to say hello. And so when I cross paths with you, especially when I'm in Georgetown and some of you come up to me, I'm like, hey, Athena, hello, who are you? I don't know you. So yes, guys, feel free to say hello. I'll come in and say hello back to you, and I hope you guys have a productive Wednesday. Have a great day, guys. Bye.